This is MRN Out Loud on MRN.com, presented by Bloomin' Mondays at Outback Steakhouse. And also brought to you by Hercules Tires. Ride on our strength.
MRN Out Loud, presented by Outback Steakhouse. Well, round one is done. Now we head on to Dover for round two in the Cup Series, where it is an elimination race for the Xfinity Series. Everybody went roveling over the weekend, and people were mad after both.
Had it been a good race. On the Cup side, we see 9 of the top 10 guys that finished yesterday are in the playoff hunt. They're the 9 guys of the 12 that moved on, right? So things are falling into place. The good guys are running good, but the great guys are running better, and that's what we expect. That first round, we saw guys that ran good enough to get into that first round,
and that's what they all said. That's
exactly
what you got to
right.
do in the first round. You just can't have disaster.
Really, the only clear-cut anomaly, if you can say that, was the last 3 weeks with the 20 car. Had a really fantastic year performance-wise, was right on par, or just maybe a little under what we've seen from the 18 and 19 from the Gibbs camp.
Eric Jones wins at Darlington, then gets his new contract, and everything is smelling like roses.
And then the 3 worst weeks of his entire year were the first 3 weeks of the first round of the playoffs. But essentially,
and he had nothing to do with the part at Richmond. That was a DQ, an inspection post-race. He drove his guts out, drove and did everything he needed to do. He had absolutely nothing to do with that.
Exactly right. And then a disqualification really hurts his efforts. But the last 3 weeks of that car were kind of the anomaly. But essentially, all the cream is rising to the top after that first round. Like I say, we see the 9 of the top 10 finishers are moving on. The guys that fell out kind of were hit and miss all year long with the 1, 6, 10 of the other 3 drivers that missed out. But the interesting part about it was, there weren't any major surprises, realistically, unless you consider the fact that the leader and the winner of the race drove into the tire barrier.
Head on. I mean, he didn't just get a glancing blow. He drove straight into it.
Yeah.
Then he wins and does a burnout and sees the wall and goes, I'm going to get you again. How about that?
And so you picture behind the scenes pre-race, you picture Alan Gustafson, who, as anybody knows, Alan is very, very clean and proper and very organized and good team leader. And okay, Chase, this is what we're going to do. About halfway, you're going to be leading the race comfortably, but on a restart, I need you to go straight into the tire barrier.
And then recover.
And it's okay, because we're going to come work on you. You're going to start 60th. and you're going to be able to drive back to the field and then retake the lead with about 5 laps to go and win comfortably. So
and drive away.
And so don't worry about this, okay? But that's what I need you to do.
We got it.
Okay, boss, that's what I'll do.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what it looked like. All the Hendrick cars were really fast. The 4, Jimmy Johnson was the worst performing car, and he ran really good all afternoon.
Yeah, he did.
But the 24, the 9, and the 88 were all very fast cars. They had issues. 88 was in a backup car, had no time on that one.
My goodness, that was one of the most stirring runs I think I've seen this season, where he knew where Newman was and where he wasn't going to be good enough to get him in the playoffs.
Exactly right.
Or continue in the playoffs. He drives by everybody but the leader and then falls out on pit road afterwards and is being attended to medical personnel. Talking about Alex Bowman.
Yeah, overheated a little bit, got a little bit of help from another driver, was pretty nice. Another driver come over and splashed some water to make sure he was cool enough. So that was pretty nice.
The problem was he got the medical people too.
Well, it's just water.
Yeah.
It's just
I thought it was
water.
Gatorade, but whatever.
It wasn't like it was battery acid.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, that would be a no-no.
We've seen bigger videos that have been promotional portions of our highlight film with
I wouldn't be surprised
arguments.
if you see that one pop up as well.
Exactly
somewhere.
right. So anyway, that'll be a good soapbox a little bit later on to talk about a little bit of I get miffed, if you will, about how we promote things and talk bad about them in the same sentence. So it's kind of odd.
Happens quite a bit.
And then realistically on Saturday, again, you expected the guy that won to win, right? Even though he did a great job over there at K-Leg Racing. But again, when we look at the performance of all those guys, everybody behind A.J. Allmendinger is sitting right there in the playoffs. The Cole Custers, the Tyler Reddicks, these guys,
Christopher Bell.
Yeah, they're all sitting right there. So they finished exactly where they were supposed to. With Dover coming up into a cutoff race for those guys, they don't have any problems. So no surprises on Saturday. Again, the Roval
Except that it was really rough. I mean, they were beating the crap out of each other.
But it's interesting. We can beat each other up but continue on. It's almost like a truck race where those guys have good sides, but now that the new body in the Xfinity side allows a little more contact with less detriment to your performance. But any doubts the last 2 years with the Roval, we've had two distinct races. This year we put the new chicane in the backstretch, which cars were going over 160 miles an hour, exiting turn 9 all the way down the backstretch, getting down to under 55 miles an hour.
And a lot of guys didn't and just went straight.
That's exactly right. So the Roval, again, performed flawlessly. I thought Charlotte Motor Speedway should be very, very happy. I hope we don't do it to a lot of tracks, right?
Similar to the dirt race for the trucks at Eldora.
I would agree with that. That makes sense. But they did a really good job. The track is very racy. We have 3 distinct passing points. We have multitudes of racing areas, but 3 really good passing zones. And I like the penalty that if you just miss the chicane, you just can't keep going. Watkins Glen has a similar situation, but if you miss that chicane, they have an area that's distinct and defined for a penalty. It worked out well. Again, the Roval was spectacular. The results were good. Chase Elliott wrecking and then winning is the
Truex does the spin and win the week before, and Chase goes, "I'll do you one better." How about that?
Hold my beer.
Watch
this.
That's
exactly right. But hey, you know what today is?
It is a Bloomin' Monday. If you're with us on a Monday, Kevin Harvick with a third-place run pays it off again. Go by Outback Steakhouse. Tell him Kevin Harvick, another top 10 finish. Gimme that free Bloomin' Onion. But as Joey said, Chase Elliott wins. He does it after running into the tire barrier while leading on a restart. Here's what he said afterward.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely at the time I thought we were done for sure, and I could see they were showing it up on the big screen. I could see the big screen down the back, and I was looking at it, and I was like, well, the hood's not that bad, but I thought the splitter was knocked up, and I felt like if that was going to be the case, then we were probably done from there, and obviously just a really stupid mistake. I mean, I'm not sure that you could do something more stupid than that. So if there ever is a notebook of things not to do, that should be number 1 in that book.
So Chase Elliott does get the victory, clinches his spot in the second round, and now is running with the big dogs.
Thankfully, due to social media, it's fantastic that all drivers and spotters and fans and social media people all get together. Mark Martin gave Chase Elliott a hold my beer. I did one more stupid of that years ago.
When he pulled
famously,
off early, yeah.
Mark Martin was leading a race and famously
was it at Bristol? I think
Bristol is a short track.
Yeah.
Leading the race, clearly pulled down pit road down victory lane to go to victory lane a lap early.
Yeah, they don't allow that.
They don't allow it. You got to finish
all
the
the laps. Yeah.
That's it. So it was a cute moment today on social media. Mark Martin said, basically, hold my beer. I got one better for you.
Yeah, want to see something else?
Exactly right.
Yeah.
But Chase Elliott hit the nail on the head. It was one of the most dumb things, and he took
But a lot of people had trouble on those restarts because you hit that chicane when you're under green, but on restarts you bypass it and you build up a lot more speed.
Yeah, you're going faster. And it's the perception of the fact that you're not really going that fast, but you get into a timing. The Roval racing is very timing oriented. You know when you're going to shift, when you're going to brake, when you're going to turn. And because you restart the race in a different location without having to go through that chicane, your timing just gets thrown off. We saw it last year at Brad Keselowski leading the race.
The lemmings over the cliff.
Lemmings right into the tree, 5, 6, 7 of them piling. Yeah. And we saw it 2 or 3 times yesterday as well. So it's not an unusual occurrence. It's unusual, but not for that track.
All right, we got to take a time out here on MRN Out Loud. We'll talk some Xfinity racing as they get set to head to Dover for an elimination race. We'll hear from a driver about what that track will present as challenges. It's all ahead on MRN Out Loud. Stay with us.
Here's your chance to win a set of your very own Hercules tires. Go to HerculesTires.com/MRN. Simply register, and each month we'll give away 1 set of tires. Hercules Tires has the value, selection, and industry-leading mileage coverage to get you wherever you need to go, no matter where the road takes you. Register now for your chance to win a set of Hercules tires at HerculesTires.com/MRN. Hercules Tires. Ride on our street.
G'day, America. It's the moment you've all been waiting for. That's right. Outback Delivery is here. Now you can enjoy all your Outback favourites anywhere. Our signature centre cut sirloin at home.
It's here.
Or game day party platters with Kookaburra wings that'll have both teams cheering.
It's here.
Or steak and lobster for a date night at home.
It's here.
Head over to Outback.com and place your orders because Outback delivery is here. Outback Steakhouse. Aussie rules. Delivery availability varies. Delivery charge may apply.
At Freightliner, innovation is at their core. In fact, Freightliner was created nearly 80 years ago out of a need for something new in trucking. Today, that innovation still drives them as they constantly work to make their industry-leading trucks safer, more dependable, and even more efficient. All the things that make a smart business decision a winning business decision, no matter what you may haul. Learn more about Freightliner on highway trucks at Freightliner.com. Freightliner, run smart.
Well, I think we're a stronger team now than we've ever been. I honestly feel like we're really close to being able to assert ourselves amongst those top teams. I feel like we have that in us. I don't say that because we won today. I say that because I believe it, and I think that we definitely have work to do. You know, you can't go and run as bad as we did last weekend and then come here and win. You've got to be able to have a little more consistency than that. So we definitely have our work cut out for us in trying to get better. But I think we are the type of team, and we have a good enough group of guys that we can run with those guys, or really whoever, I think, whenever we're at our best. And I thought we proved that today.
Chase Elliott serves notice that he's going to be a factor as we move on to Dover, the Monster Mile, for the beginning of round 2 of the Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series playoffs. Woody Kane alongside Joey Meyer. Martin Truex Jr. comes in as the top seed now for round number 2. Kevin Harvick and Brad Keselowski next in line. But fourth, that guy Chase Elliott. You look at the standings there as we see it on the board, but the seeds, the playoff seeds as we go on. You mentioned earlier Eric Almirola, Ryan Newman, Kurt Busch, and Eric Jones eliminated after round 1. And, boy, Ryan Newman fought about as hard as he could possibly fight, and then missing the chicane cost him.
You not only that, but had a little glitch on pit road, leaving his pit stall, stalled the car, lost a number of positions there, was trying to make them up, had gotten back into a good point spot, and just a little overdriving back in that is it a chicane, a bus stop, or an interloop? That was a question I was asking.
I think they're interchangeable.
Yeah, okay. I'll agree with that. To follow up on what Chase said in the video, his top performances are great. If we go back all the way from Loudon, week number 20, we're in 29, so we'll go back 10 races as a good baseline. We look, he's got 2 wins. Mm-hmm. That's really good. But he's got finishes of 29th, 38th, 19th, and 13th, intertwixt, if you will.
Well, since you've got his stats pulled up there, how did he do at Dover the first time?
Dover is not a bad race for him. He sat on the pole and finished top 5.
Mm-hmm.
So that's pretty good. So what he needs to do, again, when he talks about elevating his team, his top performances are adequate. But it's the bottom ones. When you're trying to fight all these other guys, your bottom performances have to be better. You can't run 30th. You can't run 20th. You can't run 13th.
You might be able to get away with it in round 1 if you have a big war chest of playoff points built up.
Yep.
Like Kyle Busch didn't really distinguish himself in round number 1. I mean, he has enough of a cushion, though, by the points he built up through the regular season to survive a bad, really up for his standards, a bad round, even though he had a really solid run at Richmond.
Yeah, the thing he has going for him is the tracks that are coming up.
Really good.
The Dovers and the Talladegas. We'll get by that one.
Well, I asked him about Dover, by the way, on Friday. You know what he said?
I'm sure he was thrilled.
This is a quote. Dover?
yeah, you did that good. That
was a direct quote.
That sounded just like him.
Yeah.
So I think that's what Chase is mentioning, the simple fact that they can perform at their highest level with the highest levels. Mm-hmm. But when they're having a bad day, they need to clean that up. Because, yesterday, excluding Kyle Busch, when you see the Martin Truex's last 2 weeks starting in the rear and being able to drive back up and win a race, starting, Brad Keselowski opening the hood at Vegas and being able to get back up there and compete for a win, those are their bad days, and yet they're still sitting in the top 5. But when Chase has a bad day, it could potentially be 38th, 23rd, 13th, and those aren't going to cut the mustard trying to get to Homestead.
All right, let's talk a little bit about what happened after the race. You got a soapbox item for us here, right?
Yeah, we do a little bit. It's frustrating as a sport that for the number of highlight reel films we've put together, i.e. starting back in 1979 with the Bobby Allison, Cale Yarborough, Donnie Allison fisticuffs. We've seen
his face hit my fist.
His face, he sat right here. We've had Bobby Allison in here, and he
Yep.
said that. His face hit my fist. We saw the Jeff Gordons and Matt Kenseth at Bristol's, the pushings and the shovings. We've seen 2 or 3 different Brad Keselowski incidents with Jeff Gordon at Texas, Matt Kenseth fighting people. And we promote these. We use them to celebrate. Yesterday we saw Alex Bowman clearly miffed with Darrell Wallace with giving him the not the number 1 sign.
He used one finger.
Yep,
It wasn't
yep,
that one.
It wasn't the number 1 sign. We could say you're number 1, right? You're number 1.
Mhm.
And after a while, we saw it at Watkins Glen that the driver that was giving the number 1 sign dumped somebody. And yesterday he was giving the number 1 sign and got dumped. Now after the race, you're going to come over and we're going to talk. And Alex Bowman's on the ground. He's tired, and he's not the first driver to ever be tired getting out of the race car. That doesn't alleviate the fact that Darrell Wallace is very mad. He wants to talk about this right now.
Mhm.
We don't care.
And walk the good ways to get there.
To get there.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, splash a little bit of water, no harm, no foul. But now the industry comes out and says, wow, that wasn't a very classy move. And I'm like, are you kidding me? We're gonna reprimand our drivers after driving the Roval 400-kilometer race and get out and go, that wasn't a classy move. And it just kind of, the hypocrisy of it sometimes, not the Bob.
But some of those earlier things that you mentioned, like the Brad Keselowski incident after, I think it was after Texas.
Yep, it was.
Those wind up in promos.
Exactly.
Later.
And that's what I'm saying. So now we're going to probably see this as a promo somewhere down the line, whether it's a TV station or even a NASCAR promo. But the governing body is going to come out and say, well, we're going to talk to him about not being classy. And it just kind of...
Do you think he gets penalized?
He should not get penalized. There's nothing...
Do you think he will?
No, I don't.
Okay.
I don't think... I would be blown away if he got penalized.
I keep going back to several years ago. Dale Jr. curses in his post-race interview, and they take points away.
You know, and I
know it's a different era now and
Yep.
all that stuff, but we've seen some bizarre things like that happen in the past.
I was at DEI when that happened. We'd won Talladega, and they were comparing his number of wins to his dad's wins. And he used an easy 4-letter word, not a rough 4-letter word. And realistically, the issue there was the FCC was coming down on the networks. The networks come down on NASCAR, so NASCAR came down on the drivers. Now, with cable television and the channels we're doing, the FCC has a little less governing of that. But from what happened yesterday with Darrell and Alex at the end of the race, man, that's just good racing, man. Let them go. And Darrell Wallace has been a good enough ambassador for this sport.
I mean, you can argue among yourselves, fans can, about whether it was a good idea, a bad idea, should he have done it, should he not have done it.
But that's great.
Yeah,
when the governing,
that's raw emotion coming out.
And even if the governing body wants to talk to Darrell, cool, go talk to him. Just don't publicly announce, hey, we're going to slap his hands, which is essentially what was said this morning by the large almost the head guy from governing body. Says he's going to, we're going to talk to him about not being classy. And it frustrates me because this is what we want. We energize ourselves with the lack of vanilla.
Remember all the complaints about how sanitized everybody was.
One of the greatest drivers we've ever seen with Jimmy Johnson, 5 championships in a row, 7 championships total, coming up on 100 victories. He's going to win again, I believe, before his career is over. He was too vanilla. That's what we heard over and over and over. And now we have an incident tomorrow, and the governing body is going to say that wasn't classy. And it was frustrating to hear that early this morning.
Well, I can, I guess, sympathize with that a little bit, but I think it would be a shame if there's some kind of sanction or some kind of penalty. Maybe you fine a guy, but going back again to the Dale Jr. thing, if you fine him a big healthy fine to make sure he doesn't ever do that again, okay, that's one thing. But if you take points away, if you penalize a guy that way, that to me is like taking points off the board in a football game for a guy cussing in the locker room after in his interview.
2 things. I almost think you agree with me.
I do.
Okay. All right.
I do.
We're just clarifying that.
I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing for the sanctioning body to say maybe you shouldn't do it in that particular set of circumstances. I hope they won't go further and penalize him, at least something that's going to impact the season. Financially is one thing if they do something like that, but man, let's don't take points away.
And you know why I'm here?
Why?
So I just don't get fined.
Yeah. That's exactly why you're here.
That's it.
All right, as we get set to head to Dover, we need to look at some Xfinity Series racing. We'll do that next.
Some people hear air guns, but for us, it's the sound of time running out. Every millisecond counts. One wrong move and Eric Jones isn't getting his first Cup win. Get it just right? It's all part of the championship. So if you haven't just been listening, but counting the seconds, you're family now. 2018 was a great season for the Toyota Racing family. Buckle up for 2019. Follow us at toyotaracing.com. Toyota, let's go places. NASCAR is a registered trademark for the National Association for Stock Car Auto Racing, Inc.
G'day, America. It's the moment you've all been waiting for. That's right, Outback Delivery is here. Now you can enjoy all your Outback favourites anywhere. Our signature centre cut sirloin at home.
It's here.
Or game day party platters with kookaburra wings that'll have both teams cheering.
It's here.
Or steak and lobster for a date night at home.
It's here.
Head over to Outback.com and place your orders because Outback Delivery is here. Outback Steakhouse. Aussie rules. Delivery availability varies. Delivery charge may apply.
Sunday, October 27th at Martinsville Speedway. It's a fight to the finish. The first Data 500 returns to Martinsville, part of the Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series playoffs. Get tickets now at martinsvillespeedway.com or call 877-RACE-TIX. That's martinsvillespeedway.com or 877-RACETIX for the first Data 500. October 27th, it's a fight to the finish.
I thought the outside pass on the 00 was probably more risky because I was putting myself against the wall when it was happening. But, you know, I knew where he was strong. He was really strong on to NASCAR 1, and I could kind of hang with him through the chicane. And then his car was really strong, putting power down after the last chicane. So I knew I kind of had to make a move early. And my car was really good for the first 6 or 7 laps behind cars, and then, as I said, the tires were kind of start going away. So I rolled a ton of speed in there and just kind of put a nose under him and made him just look enough in the, I guess it'd been turn 5, the right-hander portion of it, that he just kind of left a little bit of room. And I just tried to set him up to where I could cross him over down the hill. And then once you get to the inside, it's kind of your position. And, you know, I wasn't going to try to run him to the fence or anything, but I knew I had to get to the lead as quick as possible. And, you know, fortunately it worked out.
A.J. Allmendinger gets a win that stands. The last time he had a big race, the car wound up not making it through tech, but a huge win for Colleague Racing as an organization. The regulars, Cole Custer, Tyler Reddick, and Christopher Bell, right up top as they have been. That's why we've been calling them the Big Three all season. Heading into Dover, the guys who are behind the cut line, Brandon Jones, John Hunter Nemechek, Ryan Sieg, and Justin Haley, who flat said after the race, I got to win at Dover if I'm going to keep going.
Have to win. So a couple of things AJ pointed out was, and it was interesting, we're in our second year at the Roval.
Mm-hmm.
How many corners does it have?
How many corners?
Yeah,
they list, I think they list 17.
17.
Yeah.
So it's a NASCAR track, right? Does any other series race there? No. NASCAR is the only one. That is a NASCAR track.
I get it. I saw some of that on social media too. It's just a point of reference to help people understand where they're talking about.
NASCAR 1 for the Roval is at the end of pit road where you make the hard left.
Yeah. I would say Roval 1 versus NASCAR 1 because the Roval is a different beast. And I get what they're trying to do, help people get a mental picture of where they're talking about.
I know. My crew chief,
that was number 2 for your soapbox, wasn't it?
My crew chief scolded me last year and said, "This is a NASCAR track. What do you mean NASCAR 1?" And I get it. I was just doing it. But the other second thing is now AJ has 3 road course victories in the Xfinity. He ran 2 cars, 2 races back for Team Penske in 2013. Was part of like 6 drivers. We won a championship then. He started on the pole and then front.
And we
row
thought
the
the road course ringer era was gone.
No, he's still really good. And you put him in the same category as Marcus Ambrose when they get behind the wheel of a car. The Austin Cindric, certain drivers just are a different level of other drivers, and K-Leg Racing knew AJ was going to be that guy, and they stuck him in those road courses, and he didn't let them down at all.
He boosted the whole program there. As we head into the elimination race at Dover. We mentioned the big three. Austin Cindric still right there. Justin Allgaier, a really solid race from Chase Briscoe. I thought he had a good chance to win that race. Noah Gragson, a good race for him. He tears up his primary, goes to a backup, then gets a flat tire on the way to the track while he's trying to qualify, and then has to start in the back and drive his way up there and has a really solid finish. And then Michael Annett with a beat-up car at the end of that one, still right there as well.
You know, you look at, the 4 of the top 5 are in the playoff hunt. 8 of the top 10. Everybody's performing just like they should perform at this time of the playoffs. You know, the guys that go to Dover and say, I have to win, right? I have to win. Well, that's what you had to do to begin with, because your performance hasn't been average enough to beat the other guys that you're racing against.
Yeah.
You know, if you have an average finish of 6, that sounds great, except for if your other guys are averaging 4th, you're not doing well enough. So now we've come to the point where the guys at the back of the points cutoff need to go to Dover, and you can only have one winner, but there's 2 or 3 guys that have to win to move on. So I don't think we see any surprises after Dover.
Yeah, and there's like an 11-point gap between Michael Annett and then the next 2 guys who are on the outside looking in, Brandon Jones and John Hunter Nemechek. Yeah. So they've got some work to do at Dover. Is there a whole lot of difference in the way the Xfinity cars and the Cup cars drive Dover?
Oh, I think the Xfinity cars will be a little more wide open throttle. They don't have as much downforce, but now the Cup cars have so much downforce. It's a heavier weight. The tire wear still matters. There's a little more tire discipline in the Cup side of things, in my opinion, than there is in the Xfinity cars. The weight difference, the horsepower is kind of right there. The downforce is higher on the Cup cars, so the tire wear simply gets beat up a little bit more. The Cup cars seem like they have a bigger issue coming to pit road. We see that
because
more.
They're trying to slow down so much more.
And it's a heavier car. Our center speeds are a little bit faster in the Cup side
with the extra downforce.
The extra downforce, we just have faster corner speeds, and the entrance to pit road is right there in the center of turn 4. But you start slowing down after you get down into 3, and you jump the hill down under the bridge over there in 3. So we always see 1 or 2 guys during the event on the Cup side miss pit road. We don't see that as much in the Xfinity side.
It's going to be interesting to watch. That's the Use Your Melon Drive Sober 200 on Saturday afternoon, 2:30 Eastern Time on the Motor Racing Network with a NASCAR Xfinity Series elimination race at Dover. 4 guys will be knocked out of the playoffs after that event.
My watch says it's the end of the month.
It is the end of the month.
It is the end of the month. So it's that time that we're going to draw. Somebody draws out of the hat one name. You know what they get to win?
I'm thinking this guy can tell you.
Yeah, little guy, Little Hercules. It's a free set of tires. And every month, Hercules gives away a free set of tires. Now, you can't just sit at home and do nothing. You do have to participate.
They won't come knocking on your door and say, hey, you want some tires.
This is not like the sweepstakes that you see on TV.
Right, Ed McMahon back in the day.
You have to participate, but it's simple. You get on the internet. Everybody has a computer, iPhone, smartphone, iPad, tablet. You get on, go to register at HerculesTire.com. Use a /MRN. HerculesTire.com/MRN. Once a month, somebody wins a complete set of tires for their vehicle. Black's the only
black tires.
Black tires, the only color you can get.
I don't know if you've priced tires lately, but they are not cheap.
No, they're not cheap. That's a nice little gift.
You use them every single day, so they got to hold up for a while.
I mean, people flock to get free onions.
Why not free tires?
Free tires, exactly right.
Absolutely. Make sure you check it out.
Tire.com/MRN.
Register, and you might win. Back with more after this.
G'day, America. It's the moment you've all been waiting for. That's right. Outback Delivery is here. Now you can enjoy all your Outback favourites anywhere. Our signature centre-cut sirloin at home.
It's here.
Or game day party platters with Kookaburra wings that'll have both teams cheering.
It's here.
Or steak and lobster for a date night at home.
It's here.
Head over to Outback.com and place your orders because Outback Delivery is here. Outback Steakhouse. Aussie rules.
Delivery availability varies. Delivery charge may apply.
It wasn't just built to be a museum. It was built to be a shrine to the history, heritage, and future of the sport we love. This is our house, the NASCAR Hall of Fame, and it's packed full of classic and present-day cars, including Petty's, Earnhardt's, and Waltrip's, as well as interactive experiences, realistic racing simulators, and much more. Plan a trip to the NASCAR Hall of Fame in Charlotte. Tickets at NASCARHall.com. NASCAR Hall of Fame. This is our sport. This is our house.
Hi,
Hi, this is Mike Backley. Join me and the rest of the MRN crew every Tuesday night for NASCAR Live. We'll get you up to date with the latest news stories and ready for the upcoming race weekend.
That's what it boils down to. You know, anything can happen in between, and we've seen it the last few years, kind of how crazy things can get.
Hear exclusive interviews, expert analysis, and much more.
Wheel that thing, brother, wheel it! That's why you never give up, guys. Never give up.
It's NASCAR Live this Tuesday night at 7 Eastern on the Motor Racing Network.
Yeah, I mean, it's always nice to go back to a place where we've been this year already with this package. You kind of build your cars maybe a little bit differently. You know, I feel like this year is probably the biggest year that teams have really messed around with how they build their cars, kind of what you want to prioritize, right? From downforce to drag, you know, straightaway speed. And now, you know, the short track stuff is always like a Dover. You want as much downforce as you can. You know, you don't really care about the straightaway speed there. But now you go to, you know, Kansas here, it's kind of, you know, weighing your options. But, yeah, you'll build a little bit different maybe for Dover from what you did in the first race this year, but not a whole lot different. Now Kansas, I think that's another story of way people are going to build their cars, but it is nice having references, even for drivers. Kind of how you run that place is a lot different. The on-throttle time is a lot has increased so much more. So that's just nice to have some previous notes to look back at and kind of figure that out to where you're kind of unloading off the truck a little bit closer, having a little bit more of an idea.
Couple things jump out at me there. He mentioned the same thing you did about the corner speeds being way up at Dover. Straightaway speeds maybe not as much since some of the horsepower is gone, but it's a little bit of a different equation. The other thing is second time through now at a lot of these tracks where they do have a notebook with this car.
Well, when you go with this new package, this will be a low horsepower. This is a 550 horsepower. Guys were still in the mentality of we needed downforce at certain tracks. Downforce is drag. That's the same word. Downforce and drag are the same word. Whenever you have drag and you have more drag than the guy you're racing, he has an advantage.
Which is the car presents a bigger window in the air and it slows it down because it's trying more to move through the air.
It's going to handle better, but it's going to take more horsepower to pull it through the air. You have a bigger parachute behind your car. Some drivers and teams on the first races went with a higher drag, better handling car and realized we don't need all this downforce, i.e. drag, because the car is going to handle well enough. And they're starting to trim back. And now we go back to these second races. Huge thing at Michigan from the time we went to the first race to the second race. We saw guys with almost Talladega and Daytona style cars. But Dover is that place well. Is just like a second time around, we're going to go back. A lot of teams go back with a different style car, trying to reduce the drag because the car will handle well enough with the reduced amount of drag. The thing I like about the next 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 races that we have in these playoff formats, for a long time, when the 48 was winning all of his championships, everybody was talking about the mile-and-a-half tracks that they were kind of catered to. They were really strong at these mile-and-a-halves. But when you start the playoffs at Vegas, and we go Richmond, different track, Roval, different track, Dover, different track, Talladega, different track, Kansas.
Back and forth, yeah.
There's nothing. The only two tracks.
It's not a real groove with a bunch of the same kind of tracks together.
But even if a driver has one track that he's good at, the only two tracks that you might be able to put together, maybe Vegas and Kansas, or maybe a Vegas and Texas, or some combination of the Kansas, Texas, but that's it.
And they're spread out from each other.
Exactly right, but no clear-cut advantage for any single one driver that's good at the road course or good at, Brad Keselowski's superior Denny Hamlin at Martinsville. They don't have that kind of track. Kevin Harvick, we expect to run good at Phoenix. A multitude of drivers can win at Talladega. That's what makes the last 10 races in this playoff format so intriguing, because it doesn't lay down a card that clearly benefits one driver or one team at one track.
Couple things in the news last week. Silly season continues earlier and earlier. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. out at Roush Fenway. Chris Buescher going to take that ride. We also got the news that Christopher Bell, as expected, is going to go into the 95, replacing Matt DiBenedetto, who's moving over to the Wood Brothers next year. So a lot of silly season dominoes. I don't think we're done in that arena yet.
No, we still have the Daniel Hemrick car.
Where's he going to go?
But who's going to? We kind of know who's going to be in that car.
The suspicion is Tyler Reddick.
Tyler Reddick. Yeah. But so Daniel Hemrick. We have David Reagan's car that's still being unoccupied. And
front row.
And so there's a couple of other cars that, who can go and fill in? Who's going to be, is Corey LaJoie going to stay in the 32 or can he move up? Kind of do like
who goes to JTG to replace Chris Buescher?
Exactly right. And then who's going to be Ryan Preece's teammate over there and what car does he stay in? So there's still 2 or 3 seats. You saw Matt DiBenedetto a couple years back really jumped out of a car and said, I'm just going to take a chance.
Gamble on myself.
Exactly right. And that allowed him to get in the 95. And then a year later, you feel bad for him by getting pushed out because Christopher Bell's coming back in, and boom, he lands a ride over at Team Penske. So you could almost see something like that happening with the Corey LaJoies of the world that are really good and talented and just need an opportunity to showcase it.
It'll be interesting to keep an eye on. You can find out about all of it at MRN.com through the week as news breaks. Huge schedule this weekend coming up. Motor Racing Network back on hand at Dover and more. We kick off the week with NASCAR Live every Tuesday night at 7 o'clock Eastern Time. Mike Bagley is your host. Also this week, episode 3 of the Motor Racing Network, the voice of NASCAR, 50 years, drops this week. Then we get to Dover on Friday. Dryden 400 practice comes your way at 1:30 Eastern Time on Friday. Another practice session that afternoon at 3:30 on Saturday. Pole qualifying from Dover for the Cup cars. 1:30 Eastern Time there for the Dryden 400 pole qualifying. Then the Use Your Melon Drive Sober 200 NASCAR Xfinity Series elimination race. That is 2:30 on Saturday afternoon. Then we go late model racing out at Martinsville Speedway, the Valley Star Credit Union 300, 6:30 Eastern Time there for the Motor Racing Network late model race, a huge event at Martinsville Speedway. Then the main event, the Dryden 400 on Sunday. That's October the 6th, 1:30 Eastern Time. Kim Kuhn and I doing the pre-race show there. Make sure you're with us. Check MRN.com for scheduling information and all the other news throughout the week. I'm Woody Kane. That's Joey Meyer. We'll see you right back here next week.